Welcome to Unit 6, Lecture 1. In this lecture, we're going to talk about the basis for evolution. We're going to talk about the the stuff that leads up to what we know now as far as genetics goes, because you know more than Darwin and Mendel combined at this point with DNA and everything that you know. So then we're going to kind of take, in the next couple of lectures, we're going to take it above and beyond that. The big guy with evolution is Charles Darwin. So in 1831 to 1836, he ended up on the HMS Beagle, which is a ship that left England. And basically, you can see here its path went from England all the way around and made a bunch of stops. And what happened on his voyage, well, first of all, he was basically kind of running away from the life that his parents had planned for him. He wasn't happy with that, and he wanted to change his profession, because Charles Darwin originally was going to be a doctor, couldn't handle the sight of blood, so then he was going to become a minister, and then he decided that was not for him, so he got on board the HMS Beagle as the naturalist, so he could kind of go around to all these different places. And what struck Darwin as he moved through all of these different locations across the globe was that he saw a lot of similar species, but they were not identical. And one of the places where he made a lot of these discoveries was in the Galapagos Islands. And you can see that's off the coast of South America in the Pacific Ocean. And what he saw there was, he saw, number one, within the islands themselves, they were very different depending on which island and where on the island they lived. There was a similarity among the big one were the finches. He noticed the finches and the tortoises. Those were the big couple of groups of species where he saw that there were similarities between these organisms, but they weren't quite the same. And they weren't identical. And when he compared them to the species on the mainland in South America, then once again, he noted similarities, but he also saw that there were some very important differences. With the finches and their beaks, he saw that their beaks were very important to the kind of foods that he ate, or that the finch ate. So he started making these observations and started thinking about these comparisons. And on his voyage, he read a book called The Principles of Geology by Charles Lyell that had just been published. And Charles Lyell had basically pointed to the fact that Earth itself, the physical nature of Earth, has changed. And we've talked about that, or you guys have talked about that, in the form of plate tectonics. So the continents have moved, rocks have shifted, things that were underwater are now not, or vice versa. And so Charles Lyell had started kind of the ball rolling on this idea that the physical Earth itself had changed. And so if the physical Earth had changed, Darwin started to get this idea that potentially the species on Earth could have changed as well. And so he started thinking about this, and then Alfred Wallace was also a contemporary of Darwin, was kind of thinking, a lot of people were having these same ideas and observations and thoughts. Darwin was just the one who was able to see all of this evidence, and it's called biogeographical evidence, in his voyage, that bio means life, geographical location. So he was able to start seeing the big picture to piece all of this together. So on top of the biographical evidence, Darwin and his contemporaries had started seeing other evidence as well. So with the fossil record, they were starting to see layers of organisms, and they would see some organisms that have been around for a long period of time, areas in the fossil record where organisms died out, areas in the fossil record where suddenly we got a lot of organisms, similarities with organisms, and so we had just during the 1800s was when we really started to understand the fossil record, and we started to understand what that meant. And obviously our understanding of the fossil record with radioactive dating has become much more refined since this time period. So our evidence in the fossil record has actually even gotten stronger and stronger. And they also noticed like I said, Darwin and his contemporaries also noticed homologous structures, so, and other various similarities in anatomy. So you can see here, we're a part of a group called pteropods, and a lot of us have very similar bone structure in what would be our forelimbs. You can see in this picture, it's actually really well laid out because the humerus, which is the upper arm, okay, and your leg actually has a very similar structure. So our arms and our legs have very similar bone structure because they weren't all arms and legs. They used to be forelimbs and aft limbs and so on and so forth. But you can see across the board, they've all got a humerus, they've all got the radius and the ulna, which if you've ever broken your wrist or broken your lower arm, there are 2 bones here. There are also 2 bones in your lower leg, just the same way. So there's similarity amongst our limb bone structure. And then they also had embryology to look back on, and embryology is basically just the pattern with which the embryo develops. And if you look here, we're all the way over here, so that's our fetal development in a very shortened fashion, obviously. And then you can see here across at the beginning, in that first stage, you can't really tell the difference, okay? And then it diverges, okay? And if, like I said, if I had this drawn out more, you could see the separation a little bit better or a little in more detail. But right here, you see other mammals. Okay, so these guys are all mammals with us. And then you've got a chicken, which is a bird, and a turtle, a salamander, and a fish. So you can see these 4 on the end look very similar to each other, and then we have similarities with all of them at some point. So evolution basically works on the thought of what's called parsimony or Occam's razor. Basically, the simplest answer is the correct answer. Very rarely does life try to do anything more complex than it has to. Life is inherently lazy, okay? And so what happens here is that certain characteristics have come on the scene once, and if they've been beneficial, they get to hang around, okay? And so that's basically what a lot of these things are showing us, is that once it starts, or once that trait evolves, we may refine it, we may change it, we may change how it occurs, but it still basically stays the same way. Okay. Now we look at things like in what's called a phylogenetic tree. So that's where we're actually use evidence with genes to actually show our relationships. Okay, and so you can see here these branch points are common ancestors. So you can see lungfishes, which are a type of fish, okay, hawks and other birds, all right, and then here's us with mammals. So there are different type of branch points where different characteristics have evolved, and then so everybody from this point, okay, these guys, they diverge from the crocodiles by having feathers, okay. Here we diverge from the fishes because we ended up with limbs instead of fins. Okay, so you can see, so we plot basically characteristics on a tree, and it shows us relationships. So it takes the pedigrees that we were looking at and then spans them out over the course of geologic time. So pedigrees were generations, whereas phylogenetic trees are actually geologic time, which is a lot longer. So Darwin published his book, and he had 2 main theses about evolution. Descent with modification is the idea that the fact that all animal species have come from ancestral species with gradual changes over the course of time. So basically saying that none of us just popped on the scene and said, hey, here we are. Okay, over the course of time, the environment has created conditions to make some of our characteristics more advantageous and some of them less advantageous, which has resulted in the change of species and populations, some resulting in extinction, some resulting into evolution into new species, okay, some resulting in just, you know, refining of a species. Okay. And then his other thesis was the fact that natural selection is the mechanism of evolution. Okay. And that means that there's variation between the offspring. So, and this applies predominantly to sexually reproducing organisms, but in sexually reproducing organisms, all the offspring are slightly different unless you have identical twins, which is not common, okay? And so that variation has what's called differential survival and reproductive success, which basically means some of us are better at certain things and some of us are worse. And so those that are better adapted can become survive better, faster, longer, get more food, get more shelter, more water, so on and so forth. And that means that leads to us having more offspring. Okay? And so those were Darwin's two basic ideas, is basically that evolution is a process that happens through natural selection and descent with modification. So then we rediscovered Mendel's work. So Mendel's work was lost. When Mendel first brought his work out, a lot of people were like, whatever, you know, pea plants, okay, didn't really pay attention to it. It was rediscovered in the early 1900s, around 1900, and people really started to take notice of it and realize how important his work actually was with those pea plants. And in 1942, Julian Huxley was a scientist who actually took all of this information together and put it into what we call now as the modern synthesis. So the modern synthesis is basically what you wrote your paper on, okay? How genetics and the environment create evolution. And so you can see here in this little picture, we end up, you know, populations compete with each other, competition, but what happens is mutations, which are changes in genes, result in creating the variation, and that genetic variation is what ends up resulting in some changes to survival. Okay, so you guys have kind of been working under this all year. Now we actually have a name for it. All right, and so basically everything you have studied this year is stuff that Darwin and Mendel never knew. Huxley is really the first guy that's kind of credited with bringing this together, and then there have been other scientists, E.O. Wilson, some some Russian names that I can't quite pronounce, but a lot of it started actually bringing this, and this was actually where science really changed, and we started to see how everything in biology could be looked at through the lens of evolution, and why different characteristics exist, and why different patterns exist, and why different behaviors exist. Almost everything in biology can be looked at through the lens of evolution. And then a lot of things with geology and botany, well, botany is a type of biology, but you know, a lot of those things that involve the life sciences, why they exist. Okay, your wrap up. Why would building roads actually help us understand evolutionary history? And then natural selection is sometimes described as survival of the fittest. Why? All right, I'll see you in class. Have a great day. Bye.